enough?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Walk.
Jazz hands.
What follows this?
Do I like that? Yeah, I think I like it.
All right.
So I'm trying the new makeup today, seeing how it looks.
I think it looks nice.
The look finish.
I like the look
It
finish.
said full finish on it.
Mm.
And I was like, well, let's see what the lights do to my face today, y'all. Here we are. I think it works. It's working. Yours is always flawless.
Not always. My eyes are looking old. I'm like, stop wrinkling. I'm going to have to find some eye stuff, Hitting your 30s is always great, you guys.
Get some of that serum. I mean, I see it all over the place, that collagen.
I found a serum that I really, really like. And my mom was buying her stuff. I was buying her stuff. And then she stopped selling it where we get it from.
Sad face.
And then, so we had to look on Amazon because we don't know where else to find it. And it doesn't look like she's producing very much anymore, which is really sad, because her products were really, really good. So I'm like, it can't be that, any different. But when I would put on her, she had like a vitamin C under eye serum that you would put on, and I would notice an instant difference within like 30 minutes. I'm like so sad about it.
I hear great things about vitamin C on the skin though, because I read way too much crap. But that's one of the things I read about was about vitamin C and the stuff that it can do for your cells and its anti-aging properties on the cellular level.
Oh yeah.
Inside your body when you take it off, vitamin C is good for y'all. Just saying. Oh, have to find me some. But that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Nope.
But I like it. It's a good sideline.
It is a good sideline.
Especially with one day I'm going to need those. It's something I never think about. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, do I have to think about that now?
Actually, they say, rule of thumb, you're supposed to think about that in your 20s. So girls who are in your 20s, you need to start wearing that stuff now. Like, don't wait until your eyeballs start crinkling up. You're like, okay, I think it might be time now. No, do it before it starts being shown. That's the key from what I've heard from everybody. I do the moisturizing. I moisturize like crazy. I
didn't even do anything until last year was the first time I actually put any thought into my skincare. Last year. Yep. But it's because it just wasn't in my bubble. It wasn't in my
it must be my mom
environment.
It's my mom. She's all about doing all the things, and her hair looks amazing all the time. She looks like a 50 model walking down the road. My mom is gorgeous. She's not even 50. She's much older than that, but she looks so young and flawless. And I'm like, man, my mom knows what's going on there. So I try. She does. She's all about moisturizing. I love my mom.
I love it. Although, man, that gives me an idea for a theme video that we'll just have to do where we dress in 50s era outfits.
I'm always about dressing in 50 eras. I have a great dress upstairs. If I could just lose another 30 pounds, I can.
I love this.
I'm like, that's okay. This is my quarantine body.
She's going to take it off when we're done, y'all.
Yeah, I went up like 3 sizes.
Unzip to step out.
I don't care.
That brings the whole.
I'm more luscious this way.
I love the bodysuit imagery because so many times whenever doing my work, people always tell me, so are you just going to unzip that skin and step out? Every time I see you as someone else, and I'm like, I don't know, who do I look like this time?
Who do I look like?
So that's what I think of. Like, oh, this is my quarantine body. Yep, just going to unzip it, step out of it when we're done, be ready to be back in the world.
Oh, we don't have matching cups today.
We don't. That's okay. Your cup's cute.
It is cute.
You don't have your drink yet. You've had 4 minutes to get it. Well, we've been talking about skincare, okay, y'all? Mm-hmm. Speaking of witches. I'm all excited. I'm so excited. So, if you're just joining us, welcome to Spirit Walk. Thank you for being here. We love y'all. You're amazing. Today's topic, we are talking about all of the things that go bump in the night. That tend to follow.
Well, not all of the things that go bump in the night. It would take us really a long time because then we'd have to get into a lot of other subjects.
Only the most common ones.
In the more common ones. But tonight, I think we're specifically going to talk about entities versus ghost and an entity is and what a ghost is. But we want to talk about something really important for you to gain understanding of those things is understanding the emotional energy.
Absolutely. And it, all of the stuff that we're talking about here today is strictly from our perspective and our experiences as intuitives in dealing with these types of energies. And some of the most common things that I've observed and had to deal with and manage in those fields, in that area of energy, particularly, definitely speaking on the energy of emotion and the energy of negative thoughts or thought patterns and how they express themselves in our bubble, in our aura, in our electromagnetic field. I personally love calling it an electromagnetic field because even though it's a mouthful, I like it better than saying aura.
Because it's more relevant. It's more scientific that way when you start looking at it from that as your electrical field, because we all know that we're bodies of energy, right? I mean, that's how we function. If you guys know anything about ATP, right? It's energy. That's how it's measured.
That's how it is.
I can't wait until science has a major breakthrough. I think there's been a lot of breakthroughs. People just don't want to hear it,
right?
Because we've been told something different for so long. You know, I mean, how long did it take to convince people that the world was round and not flat? You know what I mean? Like, we just haven't been able to put all those things and data down on a piece of paper. But I mean, it is being done. The science is out there. So
I was just reading one of the, what was it, a couple weeks ago, about how they measure the human electromagnetic field, because they're coming out with new ways to measure it, y'all. Because when they're doing the work with our atoms, like carbon atoms.
You sounded so North Carolina in there. Y'all.
I say y'all all the time. I can't help it.
Julie lived there for, a few years.
And they're coming out with new ways to measure that. And so I was reading a thing about how they're coming up with a different way to photograph it to capture a more in-depth picture of what the energy coming off the body actually looks like. And I was like,
which is colorless, but that's for another day.
Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, we're gonna do a whole video on that.
But
actually colorless.
And about our perceptions, our best way to relate to that energy is through color.
Right.
So, but that's another story. We'll touch base on that later on.
We have a whole list of videos.
So much stuff. I wish we could just sit here all day long, every day. For hours, but I don't think anybody would watch our videos. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not watching a 5-hour video today." Like that's my whole day, and for us, that's our whole life. But
there you go.
Yeah,
emotional energy. So emotional energy and the emotional body, we carry it around outside of our physical selves. We do carry emotional energy inside of our cells, obviously, as we literally, because we both go see a chiropractor, amazing chiropractor. Love chiropractic care.
Love our chiropractor.
Love our chiropractor.
He is amazing. Like, hands down. Like,
he's a great chiropractor.
It's so funny because chiropractors don't realize that when they're doing that, they're releasing energy that it gets stuck into your body that's been floating around for so long, blocked, that it actually is starting to cause physical damage. And that's what they do. They kind of shift that around and put things back in the line, and I can feel the energy flowing out of me so quick, and like everything reconnecting. My neck experience was night and day difference within 20 minutes. Like I couldn't even believe, I didn't even realize how bad it was until I got adjusted. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, chiropractic work is amazing. Yes, so
that's one way we hold on to emotional energy. It comes up for us a lot because, we talk about our chiropractor. We talk about the energy field. Like, we've had so many conversations, especially over the last, month, of going to the chiropractor, because our physical cells will hold on to emotional trauma. They also hold on to thought patterns, and the way we think about our body is then reflected inside of our body. Going to the chiropractor made it super clear where I was holding on to my emotional trauma inside my body. So that's one way. The other way that I perceive emotional energy is in what I call is the emotional layer of the magnetic field. There is a whole field of buffer of emotional energy that sits outside of us that the world picks up, right? The stuff inside our body is much harder to actually transfer from person to person. But the emotional body that sits on the outside, which is part of the reason it's called a body, we have this body, and then the external emotional body. That energy sits around and anybody can pick it up at any time, any place, anywhere. So in order to understand like the things we're talking about today with ghosts and entities and spooky things that are going on, especially with all the wonderful heightened energy of Halloween and a full moon all combined together, the emotional body plays a huge role in that. How you feel and the way that you think is projected into that space, and then it can create all kinds of wonderful little chaos inside the home, like having weird experiences, like seeing things out of the corner of your eyes, seeing blobs move around on the floor, and you're always like, man, is that a weird light trick? No, it's not. So stop telling yourself it is.
Don't lie to yourself.
Because it's real. And it happens all the time. And everybody thinks, oh, that's not real, so I'm not going to talk about it. It's real.
One of the things that you do when you do that is you keep on shutting off pieces of your brain to recognize that. When you keep telling yourself that it's not real, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. Or if it's scary, it's not real, it's not real. And so that you don't look at it, doesn't make it disappear. It's still there. It's just that you don't get to see it anymore, which to me is scary.
Right. That's a huge disadvantage.
A huge disadvantage.
I don't know what's going on with that.
When I blocked myself off from doing a lot of that, it did not stop me from emotionally feeling it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You still feel it. And now you don't know why.
Yep.
You don't have a visual like, if you could see some of the things that were around you that was emotionally making you feel that way, your perception of it would change. You'd be like, you would realize it's not me, it's these things around me. And then you can do something a little bit more about it. For me, on my journey, recognizing entities for what they were, how they affected me, made a huge difference in my life. So this subject is not... This subject's important to me. I think people should understand what entities are and what they do to you, because if you're struggling with your emotions, I really think that that's a first step basis for you to address of how to help yourself get through those situations, how to protect yourself in those situations, and to recognize what it is.
Right. No, I agree. And I think a lot of people who are just starting to develop intuition, we're on a dense... Oh my gosh, I need a thing. I have a whiteboard. I'm bringing it next time. Just so I can draw the lines, do something with my hands.
That's not a bad idea. You know what? I just had a vision of us with a whiteboard or like a dry eraser marker.
Yep.
Same thing. It's the same thing. Maybe I was thinking chalkboard, but I would rather have a dry eraser marker.
Right. With us to grab my thought.
A big one just so that we could go through that. Sorry, go ahead. Back to your thought. I'm sorry.
No, because I want to. I want to be able to draw the lines, because a lot of people, especially when we're talking about lines of frequency and how everybody says they go from low to high or high to low, however you say it. And I always see them on the sliding scale of this end to that end. And I try to see them as more neutral. But when people are just starting to develop their intuition, develop their sense of knowing or their sense of awakening, in my mentorship programs in the past, I try to help people find their sound, their soul frequency sound first, so that they don't get distracted by the sounds of entities, ghosts, people, other people's stuff. Because when you're fumbling around with intuition and you either don't know what's happening, or you're just starting to get into it, you see a lot of crap first, because the low, dense frequency stuff is the easiest things for our human brain to really process and understand, especially if it's new, because everything that we're perceiving with intuition is going to fit into our box of belief and believability. And so, I can't think of anyone that I've worked with that was like, no, I saw angels first. Like, I saw angels and there were wings and choirs. No, it's always like, that dude had a scary face. I'm seeing black shadows. I'm feeling like the cringies all over. And so entities are one of the first things that people have to look at, acknowledge, and move beyond with their sense of perception in the world. Like, it's a big deal.
I think it also might have a little bit to do with the fact that for some people, if you have the ability to really open yourself up to that world, it feels like to me that if you don't take care of the emotional body, it affects you 10 times worse, because your empathy aptitude is so high. Not to say that people can't have aptitude or harness empathy, because I do believe majority of people do. like especially who's on the planet right now.
Right.
Majority of people
yeah.
do. Like
Yes.
it's not an uncommon thing for most people to have it. I have people that come to me and they're like, learn about what I do, and they'll be like a massage therapist or a physical therapist or
Right.
play some kind of, or a psychiatrist or anything like that. And they're like, I really think that I might hold a lot of empathy, like I might be able to do this energy thing. And it's like, pretty much if you go in that line of work, or if you're a CNA or a nurse, you hold a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
Like, or else you wouldn't be in those positions.
Right. And the way that people in those fields manage it is super important.
Oh,
so that other people's stuff doesn't.
Especially anybody who works in a hospital, like,
Yeah.
it's a thing, because you got tons of people with all different things all over them coming in and out, especially if they're reoccurring people. Like I said before, like it could also be an energetic thing that's going on with them and their energy body that is affecting their physical body, but they don't have anybody giving them direction to work on that. That's why I think holistic care and energy work is so important to include into other things that are going on in your life.
Bringing the awareness.
Bringing it into a full circle.
I love it, because the more you know, right?
Yep.
However they say it.
Yep.
So the difference, okay, what is an entity? Now that we've, preambled, entities are a thing, they're very real, they can be big and scary or not so big and scary, they range all types of energy and frequencies. Most commonly, entities, I think of them as bugs or insects of varying sizes. They often represent themselves in a shadow figure or a little ball of weirdness that scurries around the floor or up walls. Those are my most common perception of entities. They develop from trauma or high emotional anxieties. And that emotional energy gets put out into the world. And you live in a home, right? And I know for me, like, I want my safe spot. Now, I clean my safe spot religiously. And if you don't clean your safe spot, all of the objects in your field, in your bubble that you walk through every day, picks up the shadows of all of that emotional energy. And then over time, you start to have these bubbles develop of energy that are just kind of sitting around, not doing anything. They're dense. But then over time, if they're not dealt with, if that energy is not cleared from the house, they collect more and more energy until they become like an instinctual bug, where they're like cockroaches. Where's the next source of food? Like, I need food. That's food. That feels good. Mm-hmm. And so then they will start to migrate to other dense areas of the house that hold low frequency emotion. Same with low frequency thought. Like if you have a spot that you're sitting in, it's finally smoking.
It's like
our incense
going into my face. I keep getting like huge whiffs of incense up my nose.
Blowing it this way.
Thank you for doing your job.
Yes, thank you. When they finally develop to that point, and especially if you have like your favorite chair or your favorite couch or your favorite spot, if you have negative, repetitive thoughts, like depression does it, anxiety does it, where it's over and over and over again, the thoughts, the energy of the thought will also seep into that place, and then it'll become a thing. And they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go over here to this spot because there's stuff in it. And the more energy that is put into that spot, the stronger it becomes. And that's when you start getting your scarier entity experiences.
And not only that, your emotions become even more and more intense. Like you're like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this anger, or this anxiety is getting worse, or this depression is getting worse, or sometimes we got to look at the energy source of it. And a lot of times, a lot of those people carry a lot of entities.
Yep. And emotion is endless. Like an entity can feed on an emotion, can trigger an emotion. I don't know if it's happened to any of you all, but it's definitely happened to me, where I've walked into a place or I've sat in someone's car and I'll sit down where somebody else was sitting and I will immediately get a headache or a migraine or back pain or get angry or depressed. Like I was fine a second ago and now I'm sitting in this spot. Well, whoever was sitting in that spot before me was not in a good place. And that spot absorbs that energy, and then somebody else comes and sits down and, oh, look, now I have it. Now I got to go clear it out. Right. Same thing.
Right.
When that starts happening, that's some really potent. It's so I just can't, I can't overemphasize the power of emotion and thought and its effect on the environment around you. Huge.
Even external.
Yes.
And like in your house, it's covered in it, right?
Yes.
Because you're not dealing with it, you're not expressing it, you're not dealing with your emotions, you live with somebody like that, and then things in your house start breaking down all the time.
Right.
Or things start getting worse in your home.
The escalation of the entities.
Because the entities can deteriorate materialistic things. And I've also seen people who've had a really hard time with vehicles. And that's usually what it is too. And I know you have a really good experience of clearing out somebody's car.
Yeah. Their engine wouldn't start.
Their engine just would always stop. And it seems like,
Yeah. The escalation of it.
The escalation of it is
they'll go from their favorite spot.
It can affect every step of your life.
Yeah. They'll go from their favorite spot and then they'll start to get preferential. Like, oh, I think I like the energy of anger better than the energy of depression for whatever reason. So then it'll seek out a certain frequency of negativity. And then they'll start attaching to people. And those are your people with, oh man, they're the people that are like, I lost my keys, I lost one shoe, I tripped over the doormat, my car wouldn't start after I found my keys. They get to work and like they spill coffee out of the coffee pot and it's just like one stumbling block after another. I have cleared entities off from people and they stop having those weird setting themselves up for bad days type experiences because they will have an entity attached to them. Electricity is another one. Part of the signs if you're dealing with strong entity activity in your space, they mess with your electronics. They turn your lights on and off. They turn your radios and stereos on and off. They mess with your phone.
They mess with your pumps in your house. They mess with your water. I mean, if they find something in the house that triggers you, they're gonna make that worse for you because they want you to have that emotion.
Yes. You walk into a room, you were fine 1 minute, all of a sudden you're raging angry and you can't figure out why. You might have an entity issue. I'm
not saying that's why you have a problem with your roof because you refuse to fix it in 20 years. Okay, there's a difference because you're still a component of taking care of your things so they don't break down. But if you're one of those people that is constantly fixing things or constantly having to get new cars all the time and you're putting all the work in it, or you got a nice car and all of a sudden it starts breaking down and you can't figure out why do you keep on getting all these duds. It could be because an entity is attached to that because it's feeding off of your frustration, your anger, and then all of it.
It's a whole thing. And I do love that experience whenever I think back to it because I used to work at a place that did massage therapy and it was full of therapists. We had 2 male therapists there. And one of the guys came in, did their whole shift at work, and they went outside. I was a receptionist. I was not a massage therapist, just to be clear on that point. I didn't massage people. I sat at the front desk. I saw people in and out all the time. And our massage therapist, he finished up at work, and he went out. He had somewhere to be that day because that's when it always happens. When you got somewhere to be, man. And he goes out there, and his car won't start. And he comes in, and he was like fuming and angry that his car won't start. And he's like, it's been happening at random times. I can't find anything wrong with it. And it won't freaking start. And I was like, okay. And I look over there, with my intuitive eyeballs. And I was like, oh, you have I'll take care of it. I did not tell him that he had an entity in his car because he already knew that I was the weirdo. So I was like, I'm not going into that whole story. And so I was like, all right, no, I want to try something. And he was like, do you know about cars? I was like, no. I know nothing about cars. But I walk out there and he lifts the hood up and he's checking all the things, right? I literally wave my hand over it a few times because I'm clearing out this entity, which shoots out of that car, man. Saw me coming. I waved my hand. I was like, boom, gone, right? And I was like, there you go, try it. And he was like, oh, okay. And he goes in, he sits down and the car starts. And he's like, I don't want to know. And I was like, no, you're good, man. He's like, thanks. I was like, okay. And he left. And he's one of those experiences of people who he's had that thing following him around forever. His car was stalling at random times. He couldn't figure out why jumping it wasn't working. He's replaced multiple parts on it. And he's like, I don't understand. And so that didn't happen to him again while he was at work, by the way. I was like, nah. So that's one of my favoriteest things because they'll affect your electronics, they'll affect your car. Not along the lines of entities, but one of these days I'm going to talk about why you don't do healing work in a vehicle. Because I got some experiences about that too. That ended similarly. That's one of the things. Ooh. So along the escalation of them, of entities gaining power, being able to influence all of those things, being triggered emotionally, being triggered when certain people come in, people carry around entities and they'll go in and out of places with them. And yet, like, they will follow whoever appeals to that frequency the most. So don't feel bad. If you got entities in your house, we're going to show you how to clear them out today. We're going to talk about all of that.
Yep.
Or
how to protect yourself before you go into somebody's house. When you go there, you don't understand why you have all these emotions. Let's say it could be a family member. So it's not somebody that you want to cut yourself off from.
Right.
And how to deal with that situation when going into their home. Because there's some places that I go that I automatically start feeling like I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, oh man.
My gosh. Like the
I'm
store. Like the store.
Like the store.
Oh, it's been fun.
And, so I carry my stuff on me all the time just for that, to dose myself down before I go in and dose myself out when I come back out.
It's a thing. Clearing is a thing. So dealing with the energy of entities. Now they all, because they range in, I guess you could say for lack of a better term, power, because they all range in different power. You're low, seeing things out of the corner of your eye, getting weird feelings when you walk into a room, those are going to be pretty well cleared out. Like, those are probably the simplest ones to get rid of, because you take your salt spray or your activated salt spray, which we have here, to spritz around on everything. Get some kind of salt spray, activated spray, to spray a mist all over your stuff, everywhere. Ceiling, carpet, rugs, furniture. We personally do our whole house. We do our beds, we do our comforters, we do everything, especially
our cars.
Our cars. I have one in my car. For that reason, if I'm having a bad day and then I get back in my car without cleaning it, it's a thing. My poor car. I love my car.
Speaking of which, I need to spray my car
I
down.
put so much love into my car. I was just thinking about how attached I am to my vehicle the other day.
You're so attached to you.
I do. I do that with all of my vehicles. That's one thing you can do. I'm going to link some great tools in the description that are audios that will clear out low vibrational energies from any space as long as it is playing. One of them is the Violet Flame. It's a mantra that you can do. The other one is another mantra, the Om Namah Shivaya mantra, also great for clearing out energy in spaces, dealing with entities and low frequency energy. Mentally, the things that you can do mentally, like spray yourself down, clear the energy, think happy thoughts. And I know that is super cliche, but when you are in a bad space, actively combating mentally with your thought process, those negative thoughts is going to help counterbalance the energy coming off from you. Like, it is a thing. Whatever that needs to be to help trigger a happy thought or a happy feeling, even better. If you can trigger a happy emotion, will help counteract that.
This is what I do. I turn on music and I get myself in the space where I'm dancing and I'm feeling great and everything's wonderful. Then I get up my spray and then I dance through my house and I spray everything down. That's what I do.
Yep. And you still use sage too, right?
I use sage as well. I like sage because I love the way it smells.
Right.
I'm probably always going to use sage, but I do spray my house down also with the salt water. You can put smells in them if you want, so you don't smell like salt.
Man, you have a sensitive nose. I would have never noticed.
Really?
I
notice.
I notice when it leaves a film, when it dries.
Oh yeah, if it's on your skin.
If the concentration of salt is super high in your water, you will get a film on your skin if you're spraying yourself, or on your furniture if you spray.
You don't need that much in there.
No.
But what's your equivalents? What do we?
Oh, dude, for our 4 ounces, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like ratio, like you do like 2 tablespoons per 4 cups of water.
I do it a higher concentration than that for sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you do.
So ours is like we have 4 ounce bottles that we have here. No, sorry. 6 ounce bottles that we have here. There's at least 2 tablespoons in each one of those
For
everyone. Yep. So it's a higher concentration, but the energy of salt transmutes negative energy. Like there is a reason that witches and druids and like all types of religions or spiritual earth earth people use salt because it transmutes negative energy. It's a super powerful thing and it makes it disappear. It doesn't come back. It's not like I scared it away and it'll come back. Salt will work very well all the way up until a certain energy of entity. And then once you start getting into the harder entities where they are physically affecting your world, the ones that are affecting things like electronics or the ones that are affecting like opening and closing doors, those are a little bit harder. They take a little bit more work, still incorporates a lot of salt. And that's kind of where we have, you okay over there?
Yeah.
We have a series coming out on how to actually deal with entities and poltergeists in a much more effective, elaborate way that instead of just spraying out your house, you can do invocations. You can pray. Prayer is huge. Meditation is huge. As long as your focus and energy is direct through the heart center and not anger. If you get angry at an entity and tell it to go away, it will just get stronger.
I'd be like, oh, thank you. Then just be like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Exactly.
Please scream at me some more.
Stay heart-centered. Play happy music. Play your mantras. Spray your salt. You can go so far as to put a whole salt ring around your house, and that will prevent it from going anywhere, and then give you time to address the ones that are being more fervent.
I used to see entities a lot when I would go to lay down in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be laying there, and I remember when I was younger, I want to say I was 14, and I would lay down in bed, and I would watch this thing come from up above me, and I would reach out across the wall, and it would be over top of me, and I would be like, oh my gosh. And if anybody knew who I was at that point in time in my life, I wouldn't call myself a Christian or anything like that. And I remember I would just sit there and pray.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what this is, but it needs to go away. Give me the strength. And I would sit there and I would just concentrate on, okay, it's time for it to go.
Not freaking out.
You need to and be calm about it. Like, it's time for you to leave. You need to leave my room. This is my space. You know, and it would help a little bit. And I remember it would seep up, but it would always come back because it was attached to the house and different things going on in our home.
Right.
So salt spray would have been my golden key. But I did use sage then. I used a lot of sage as well then when I was 14.
One of the things that we'll go in depth about with the series that's coming out is we'll talk more about grids too, because crystals are a great way to hold a boundary when you have something repetitive like that, where maybe it's not you, maybe it's the house, maybe you're not in control of the whatever environment you're in. You can put grids up that will hold a bubble and keep those types of things from coming in all the time. It'll like repel them right off. I remember back in the day when I first was dealing with really strong entities, I would put salt lines in my house, y'all. I would. I had my salt out.
You know, now that I think about it, I think I might have done that as well in my bedroom.
Yep. So I will never forget it because I was in my 20s and we were living in an apartment complex, which I am so happy that I'm not currently in an apartment complex. We had some special neighbors and things seep through that dense floors and walls and whatever. And I remember laying there one day and it was evening time and I was getting ready for bed. And these bubbles, these dark, foggy things were floating in through the wall from my neighbor through my house. And I was like, I was like, that's not okay. I touched my wall and I put a shield on my wall. And then I took salt and I had salt lines everywhere in our house. And I was like, anytime they get broken, I'm going to go back through and redo it. And I would section off each part of the house, depending on my,
mode at the time.
Exactly. Like, where's it coming in? Is it coming in that wall? Is it coming in that wall? Is it coming from there?
I'm going to salt the ceiling here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to do salt lines on the ceiling.
I also used to do anointing oil lines on all of my doors and windows.
Mm-hmm. Which can also be sage for that.
Yep. I liked the oil because it never goes away. for a very long
I also heard
time.
that balsam fir works really well as well.
Yep.
Cedar works really well, but there's a special way of harvesting that. So don't just go out and start chopping down your cedar trees, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Not okay. You don't want that kind of energy following you.
No, right.
No.
We're talking about things you don't want to follow you, not things that you want to make stronger.
Right. There's, just with a lot of things, I just had this conversation with somebody too about how you harvest different herbs and different things, and the way that you do it, and the way that you perform it when you take those things from the earth to use them for protection. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
That is a real thing. I don't care if you're a witch. I don't care if you're a Hindu, if you're a Christian. It's a real thing.
And that's the other thing too that I want to touch on with all of the stuff that we've been talking about today, especially with the electromagnetic field, that the energy of emotion and the energy of thought and patterns that feed all of the things in our environment like that. It doesn't matter if you believe that that's real or not. It doesn't matter. It still exists, whether or not we want to acknowledge it. There are still proper ways of being able to do things that don't incur negative repercussions. And that's one of them. And I feel like, especially now with the total chaos in the state of the world right now, bringing yourself in a place to be open to accepting, like, wow, energy is real and it's tangible and it's here and it can affect all of these things in our life. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal. We're in a time of transformation. We're in a time of awakening. Mm-hmm. People are experiencing things they've never experienced before. And now is the time to really say, yep, that is a thing. Maybe I should look into it. Mm-hmm. So.
And that's what we're here for, to kind of give you some of this terminology, things that you can, now that you've heard us say so many different terms, mm-hmm. Just on this video alone, mm-hmm. that you could look up. There's a whole communities all over the place that are waking up and having the talks, or you could just ask us a question and we'll be happy to answer those for you.
Please do. Hopefully y'all learned something amazing through this video, even with all of our roundabout sidetracks, because we love getting sidetracked and I love talking about everything. So I do it constantly. Hopefully you got something amazing and useful out of it. Please, if you haven't already, go follow us on Facebook, Awakened Mind LLC. We also have a spiritual group. I'm going to have the links for all of that down below. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you really loved us, please share us with your friends. Because you never know who's looking for what or who needs the information that we have.
The information that we're talking about. It could be at the tip of their tongue and we just gave it to them.
There you go. Exactly. You never know. So until next week, enjoy your spirit walk, wherever you are in your journey. We'll see you all later. Bye.
Toodaloo. I'm such a weirdo.